Labour have set out very clearly our plan to tackle the small boats crisis, but the Bibby Stockholm is not an example of success for the Conservatives, and it's not a solution to the asylum crisis that they are responsible for. And after 13 years in government, it's frankly laughable that they are blaming the opposition. We've not been in government for over 13 years. The asylum system is broken. The Home Secretary has admitted as much, and they only have themselves to blame for that. The backlog for asylum applications is over 170,000. That's 10 times more than when Labour left government. That's what they should be focusing on, is bringing down that backlog, and that's what Labour have set out plans to do. So, the barge is being used at the moment in addition to the enormous hotel bill. We want to move away from any use of hotels or barges or any other kind of accommodation, and we want to bring that backlog down. And the Conservatives instead are pursuing these madcap schemes and headline-grabbing moments rather than tackling a serious plan to deal with the crisis.
The government said yesterday, government source said that Labour-linked charities and lawyers are repeatedly trying to stop us from moving illegal migrants out of expensive hotels. Is there any truth in that?
Well, look, the Home Office is processing 9,000 fewer cases a year than they were in 2015. There's 40,000 asylum seekers awaiting deportation that have had decisions made on their claims. The deportations have fallen by 70% from when Labour left office. So to blame anyone but themselves is completely and utterly ludicrous and is a desperate attempt to deflect from their own failures. As I say, the backlog is the main issue in the asylum system at the moment. And if they don't have serious plans to deal with that, then they don't have a serious plans to deal with the crisis. Labour has set out those plans, including using the money from the completely unworkable and failed Rwanda scheme to set up a cross-border unit to tackle the issue of people smuggling and to bring down the backlog by fast-tracking schemes from fast-tracking applicants, from safe countries and from countries with return agreements. That's the only sensible way. It's not very headline-grabbing, it's not very catchy, but it is the only practical, workable and immediate way that we can deal with the crisis. And until the Conservatives sit up, take responsibility and stop lashing out all over the place, then this crisis will only continue to worsen.
I suppose the thing I was hoping that you would respond to is the fact that the government are calling organisations like Help for Calais Labour-linked charities. Are you helping them? Are you supporting them?
I don't know where that statement has come from. I don't know what link that lawyers or charities that are working on this issue at the moment have to the Labour Party. I think it really is, as I say, a desperate attempt to deflect from their own failures, and the idea that the official opposition that's not been in government for more than 13 years is responsible for the crisis that has been created in the asylum system by the Conservatives' failure to tackle it is nothing short of risible.
But are you saying that because you don't want to deny that Labour are linked, or are you saying that you genuinely don't know the answer?
I have no idea why they're making that claim. I can't definitively tell you that there's no link at any point with a specific organisation, and I wouldn't like to state so here, but I have absolutely no idea why they're making those allegations.
OK. Do you agree with the Home Office plans, though, to increase the number of lawyers and help lawyers stop people making spurious immigration claims?
Absolutely. The story around these lawyers that were advising their clients to lie were completely outrageous, and our Shadow Attorney General called immediately for those lawyers to be referred to the Solicitors Regulatory Authority. It's right that action should be taken against such lawyers, but they do obviously represent a minority of their profession, as the Justice Secretary said earlier, and that is not going to be sufficient to tackle the major issues in the asylum system. That's why we've set out a practical, clear, workable plan that can deal with it immediately, rather than these attempts to deflect and distract at the moment that I really feel the Conservatives are interested in pursuing. You know, as I say, the Bibby Stockholm is not an example of success. It is a floating symbol of catastrophic failure.
OK, you're Shadow Transport Secretary. Can I ask you about ULEZ and Sadiq Khan? When it comes to ULEZ, what do you as Transport Secretary, think is most important? Is it preventing climate change and improving the air quality in London, or is it winning votes?
Well, look, we absolutely recognise the concerns of Londoners in the expansion of ULEZ in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Obviously, people didn't want to be burdened with an additional cost. So that's why Keir Starmer and the Labour Party called on Sadiq Khan to rethink the expansion. And we were pleased and have welcomed the fact that he's extended the scrappage scheme to cover all non-compliant cars in London so that no one should have to bear any cost when ULEZ is expanded later this month. But Sadiq Khan is right, of course, to tackle the issue of toxic air, which puts thousands of people's lives at risk every year. That's why a previous Tory mayor, Boris Johnson, introduced ULEZ in the first place. It's why the previous Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, instructed Sadiq Khan to expand the ultra-low emission zone. So it's right that action is taken to do that, but we need to make sure that the cost of that doesn't fall on those who can least afford it and on hard-pressed individuals at the moment. So we really welcome.
Yeah, but on those costs, the grants are up to £2,000. I mean, your vehicle may be worth more than that. I mean, do you think that idea is enough to win back support on this issue? Because it's not just those living within the zone that it concerns. There's those who live all around in all of those home counties who travel into London. They don't live in the zone. Therefore, they wouldn't necessarily be able to receive this. They're affected as well. It's a huge number of people.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's also important to point out that with every clean air zone across the country, every other city has received central government support for a scrappage scheme to be able to cover people who don't meet the criteria. London is the only city that's not received a penny from central government in order to implement this. And if it had done, it would have been able to extend that scrappage scheme to everyone who was affected. I think it's also really important to point out that it's vehicles that are what's known as Euro 6 compliant or above. There will absolutely be vehicles that people will be able to purchase used in second-hand vehicles that are £2,000 or thereabouts. So the scrappage scheme should be sufficient, and with it, we want to make sure that, and Sadiq Khan wants to make sure that nobody who can't afford it is forced to bear the price of that. But the collective effort to tackle air quality is an important one. That's why the Tories introduced the Clean Air Action Plan in the first place. It's important that that is backed up with central government support, so the cost of that doesn't fall on individuals and those who can't afford it.
Louise Haigh, Transport Secretary, thank you very much.